If you would, join me for our affirmation of Living Water Unity. Together, please. Living Water Unity is a thriving spiritual community inspired to embrace and share our abundant good now. I am empowered for joyful living by expressing God in each moment. And our daily word today, who would like to share that with us? Oops, that word should be heart of God, not realize.
Okay. I can, if I could move my little thing here. My life's journey begins and ends in the heart of God. I feel excitement at the beginning of a journey, thinking about the adventures, the beautiful sights, and the fascinating people I will find at my journey's end. Even as I look forward to reaching my destination, however, I remain alert, open to the adventures and sights that await discovery along the way. My faith tells me that my spiritual journey began in the heart of God, long before my human birth. In childhood, I looked outward, longing for the adventures that would become waypoints on my journey to maturity. Now I journey inward, longing for the spiritual home I never really left. I am learning that even the most ordinary day can become an opportunity to realize that the heart of God is present everywhere. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. Psalms 121-8.
Thank you. And our affirming prayer. As we offer this affirming prayer and the offered prayers after this, I encourage you to open up your heart, allow the awareness of unconditional love that is always available to us, to allow that to flow through you, and into this moment. And so this crucible of unconditional love is an important conditioning of our prayer. It's an important environment in which we offer our prayers. So in the awareness that this present moment is the time when we commune with God, we rest in the awareness that God's love has no end and is a power that knows no bounds. God's healing power of divine life is restoring, healing, and revitalizing our world and our lives in this very moment. We let go of any fears or anxieties. We affirm that divine order is now, has always been, and will always be at work in our lives. We bless our global family with the vision of fulfilling and empowering relationships filled with an abundance of love. And we express our own divinity in all we think, say, and do. And so it is. I invite you to offer your prayers at this moment.
I would like some prayers for my daughter, Kalika. Put it on biopsy.
What was her name again?
Kalika.
Okay. And so it is.
Rachel here. I'd like to ask for prayers again for Angie dealing with cancer and her brother Joe, possible cancer, and also for my brother David. We heard last night that he had symptoms of a stroke that took him to the ER, and it turns out he has a brain tumor. So he will be conferring with medical people this week about his next moves. Thank you.
Okay, Rachel, I apologize. I didn't get the name of the first person.
Angie and Joe, our nephew and niece, and my brother David.
Okay, so let's hold Nancy in prayer.
Angie,
sorry. And for Joe. And for David. And so it is.
I'd like to request prayers and positive thoughts for my good friend Marie's husband, John. It's actually for John. He went into the hospital for cervical repair, 2 bulging discs, and came home kind of paralyzed on part of his body and very weak. Much more involved than they thought it would be. So it's Marie and John Hebden.
And so it is.
I'd like to ask for prayers for Sharon and Norm Fricky. Sharon has dementia and Norm is her caregiver.
And so it is.
I'd like to ask for prayers and note some celebration. I have started my LLC. I'm going to be doing the notary signing work as well as bookkeeping and any kind of office admin related work that I can pick up. I just passed my QuickBooks Pro Advisor certification this last week and still have a lot of things to go, like setting up the website and things like that. But yeah, so I'm just trying to force myself to note the milestones because it's starting to feel like this long slog that's never ending. So there's that, and just prayers for things moving forward.
For progress and success. And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
I'd like to ask for prayers for my friend Pat and her 3 adult sons. They all live together. Pat's husband, Ron, died of COVID. and just recently, and left them without a will or powers of attorney, without access to computer passwords and bank accounts and all kinds of stuff. So just prayers for Pat and her 3 sons.
And so it is. I'd like to offer prayers for several people in our community here, that the ones that I am aware of on this Sunday morning. Offering prayers for Betty. Strength, healing, peace of mind. Prayers for Dee for healing. Prayers for Lee for healing. Prayers for Dick for healing. Prayers for Clarence for healing. And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
I'd like to include Kay Ortiz, a former member of Living Water, who is undergoing chemo right now for metastatic cancer.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests?
I'd like to ask the community for insight. We're all going through some changes here in the near future again. I'm at the end of my struggles with PMR. I'll be off medication altogether within a few days. I am looking at the quite likely probability of returning to Denver within the next month and going back to work for the company I was there working for before. My nephew is going through some changes with some job offerings and some changes in his direction here with the nursery business. Everyone's life around me seems to be some kind of upheaval. There is certainly something at work, and insight to be able to recognize and to participate in the changes that are happening as much as I can.
And so it is. Are there any other prayer requests? For all of those prayers not spoken, for all of those who are in need of prayer and may or may not be aware of it, but for all those that are dealing with stresses in their lives, health, finances, relationships, careers, or whatever else is causing tribulation. We allow this flow of unconditional love to move into this moment. Regardless of geographic boundaries, regardless of extent, we allow this love to flow over the planet, lifting and transforming all of those who are in the reach of God's unconditional love. And for this, together we say thanks and amen.
Thanks.
Well, Doug, I understand you've got some music for us.
I'm not sure if I've played this before. I think I might have. David thinks I might have, but no worries. It's a gorgeous tune. I opened my book of composers today, and it opened to Johnny Mercer with the lyrics of Moon River that was written by Henry Mancini, but the lyrics were Johnny Mercer, so I just thought I'd work on Moon River today just because it's a beautiful tune. And hope you enjoy.
Music is intended to be played and played again. Thanks, Doug. Could you do that again?
Sure.
I mean, right now. Yeah. Practice, practice, practice. As the old saw goes, if you want to get to Carnegie Hall, you have to practice, practice, practice.
If you want me to do it again, I can just hit play because I recorded it.
Oh, did you? Send me over the recording, would you? So, humans are adaptive creatures. It could be said that a hallmark of consciousness is adaptability. I read an article a couple of days ago about a researcher who has spent much of his career learning about mitochondria. Mitochondria are thought of as the energy centers, the energy sources within each individual cell. And it's been speculated, in fact, that mitochondria are ancient viruses that inhabited our species and became such a strong influence and strong support for our bodily functions that we passed down this present mitochondria through our generations and generations. But we are adaptive, and when we get involved in physical labor, for instance, which I have been for the last several weeks, we start to build strength. Our body starts to adapt to that increased workload. And in fact, if we want to build further strength, we might, undergo an exercise program that's very focused on particular parts of our body and where we feel that we need to add strength. And if we want to change our habitual responses to the things that happen in our lives, we can reprogram ourselves to change. We are adaptable creatures, and that is a powerful aspect of who we as humans are. So if I want to change my goals, I may have to change our prior adaptations. I mean, for instance, if I have been focusing on building strength, but now my goal is to increase my flexibility because with all this strength I'm not feeling very agile, then I may reduce or at least augment my exercise program with some yoga practices or with some Tai Chi or other means of adapting to a more flexible body. So this aspect of adaptivity is a very important thing for us to recognize as we engage our spiritual journey. Our daily word today talked about starting in the heart of God and moving back into the heart of God through the progress of our lives. And so that adaptation, as we come into this relative realm, this realm of duality, the adaptation to a strong ego is an important survival tool. It's an important adaptation that allows us in this realm of duality to build our resilience, to build our capabilities within this realm. But as we progress through this and recognize that, well, riding to space on your own phallic symbol is one aspect of being a billionaire. I heard this morning that UFOs are just alien billionaires on a trip. So we have this ability to adapt, and a powerful ability it is. And when we reach that point in life, when we recognize that our adaptation for ego is not fulfilling our innermost desires, it's not fulfilling our sense of achievement that we are really striving for, then we need to change our habits. We need to change our focus. We need to undergo exercises or engage exercises that will allow us to build and adapt to this altered goal. If our altered goal is to move back into the heart of God, then that that defines for us a direction where we come from where we are to where we want to be. And so, as we have gone through these decades of ego building, ego strength enhancement, we come to this realization that's not enough. And when we come to that, we recognize that there is a reconditioning that is necessary, a reconditioning of our prior adaptation to this dualistic realm into an adaptation that will take us into the realization, not the manufacture of, but making real in our experience, this connectedness, this interconnectedness, this interdependency that is part and parcel of the realization of Godness. So that's what the fourth principle of unity is all about. As we look at these four principles, we recognize that yes, there is in our journey through the first three principles, there's one power and one presence. The one Son of God, the Christ, abides in each of us, and the thoughts we hold in mind manifest in our experience. So this is really these three principles, these three pillars of faith define what unity teaches. But this fourth principle, the tools of transformation, are prayer, meditation, denials, and affirmation. Those practices allow us to shift our adaptation to the ego into an adaptation of Godness, into an adaptation of interconnectedness and interdependencies, which are the hallmarks of our experience. So as we recognize this, then we have the tools that are available and taught in unity. We have the tools that will allow us to adapt our consciousness to this new goal, to this new practice, to this new intention. Now, these four tools, prayer, meditation, denials, and affirmations, are about reconditioning our consciousness. They help us shift from our egocentric to our God-centric goals. And as with many tools, I can adapt them for different purposes. I can adapt my power saw to cut wood or to cut stone just by changing the blade. And in the context of using these tools for reconditioning our consciousness, it's really my intention that is, if you will, the blade of my saw. My intentions to use prayer and meditation, denials and affirmations to come into the realization of Godness. But I could also use those tools to come into a stronger awareness of my ego power. When I say thoughts held in mind manifest in our experience, those thoughts held in mind are really what we use as we build our ego. You know, I'm a powerful being. I can do anything that I want to do. Give me a task and I will overcome it. Right? The I, that concept of separation of thinking, is a concept that can be powerful, and it is powerful. So we can use these tools for any objective that we want. But if we are, as today's daily word suggests, if we are realizing that we came from the heart of God and that we're moving back to the heart of God, then we can use these tools for the purpose of adapting our consciousness to that realization. So, if I want to change my habitual stimulus response package, I can use denials and affirmations. Denials and affirmations are really about modifying my stimulus response. It allows the denial, takes away the power of the stimuli that lead us in an inappropriate direction. And the affirmations allow us to recondition our consciousness to, instead of moving into the duality consciousness, we move into the oneness consciousness. And so the denials and affirmations are about changing our habitual stimulus response. Okay? Now, if I want to change the focus of the realizations of my life, if I want to change the focus from my seeing everything from the perspective of fear, if I want to change my focus from seeing everything from this perspective of my inadequacies or the gap between where I am and where I want to be, if we want to change that, if we want to change those realizations, we change those with meditation and prayer. So those four tools are to change our habitual stimulus response and to change our realizations. And so the realization of seeing myself connected with every other aspect of creation, to see myself dependent upon every other aspect of creation. You see, that is a consciousness of oneness. That's a consciousness that we are all in this together, that this is part and parcel of the truth of our being is the interconnectedness that we are. So if I want to change that, then my meditation and my prayers provide those tools for that. We often think of meditation as the communion with God. Now, notice that phrase, communion with God. In and of itself, that phrase is a remnant of our separation thinking, right? That there is a God out there that I need to commune with. And so I, being here and establishing a link to the God out there. That error thinking is an obstacle to the realization that we are God in expression. And that God in expression is a fundamental truth of what we in unity teach. And hopefully what we in unity realize. But it takes work. Just as I need to change my blade on my saw to move from wood to stone, I need to have the intention to move from duality to oneness consciousness. And that intention then is the power that evokes this change. So we begin our meditation by finding points of physical discomfort, right? We do a body scan. In the meditations that I lead, I'll often say, okay, starting at your toes, feel your toes relaxing, feel your instep relaxing, your ankle, the muscles around your ankle relaxing. And I'll work up through the body as we focus on various parts of the body to relax into this state of no physical distractions. That's what that assessment of the body, or that's what that movement of relaxation is about. In consciousness, if we want to move from a state of stress into a state of relaxation, psychic relaxation, if you will, we can use meditation to assess where our fears are. We can use a meditation to assess where we are affirming inadequacies or states of being that are different from where we want to be. So meditation is a means of, relaxing. It's a means of communing with the all that is all. but it's also a means of, if you will, looking at a map of our consciousness and seeing where the roadblocks are, seeing where we have to go to get to that state of awareness of oneness. So meditation is about assessment. It's about relaxation. It's about moving into a state of beingness, away from a state of doingness into a state of beingness. Prayer is often thought of as this communion, with God, and oftentimes we tend to a practice of prayer of, oh God, I've got this problem and I really need some help with it, and if you're paying attention and if you love me, then you will help me. But the problem with that approach is that it's not about a God out there with the power to change our own lives. It's rather a realization that we have the power to change our lives. Now, as I said last week, there's the fundamentalist view that every event that is every event that is in our lives is a result of our own consciousness. That's a fundamentalist unity view. A more moderate unity view is that the events that are in my life I can use as a school to refine the way I respond to the events in my life. And so as we look at how we pray, we may start with that beseeching prayer, but I encourage you, if you are in that beseeching prayer, to increase your perspective, to raise your perspective, to realize that you already have everything you need. You just need to remove the obstacles to the realization that you already have what you need. So that affirming prayer is a step up from the beseeching prayer. But we move from the affirming prayer into the surrendering prayer when we recognize that, oh, wait a minute, I really don't have any needs. That my needs that I perceive are really a remnant of that dualistic thinking, that there's something out there that I don't have and I need to bring that in here. Well, so the surrendering prayer is about letting go of this illusion that we have needs that we have to achieve or fulfill. And then the next step up from that is what the daily word refers to as the heart of God. We move from the surrendering prayer, where we recognize that we don't have any needs, into the heart of God, where we realize that interconnectedness, we realize that oneness, we realize that state of being that the Buddhists refer to as bliss, nirvana. That realization of the bliss of Godness is a goal that we can all achieve if first we recognize that that is a goal, and secondly, if we use the tools of transformation to get there. So the tool of prayer is about transforming our consciousness. The tool of prayer is about raising from this awareness of needs into the awareness that all of our needs are being met, into the awareness that we have no needs, into the awareness that needs are irrelevant, that it is the realization of our interconnectedness, the realization of our interdependency, the realization of our oneness. We are all in this together, and it is good. It's not that the child dying of leukemia is good, it's that consciousness as our domain is for us individually to realize that we are connected to that child who is dying of leukemia. We're connected to that person who is disabled because of a broken leg or because of a birth infirmity. We are connected to the person who is starving. We are connected to the person who is having relationship issues. We are connected to each and every being on the planet. Now, it's easy to forget this. I mean, we get there, and I find, I have these states of, oh, yeah, this is where I really am. And then I drop back into dualistic thinking. I drop back into such and such is really a piece of, never mind, into the state where there is differences between me and that out there, and I need to accommodate those differences. Well, it's not about that at all. I mean, this state of bliss is about there being no differences, about being interconnected, about being interdependent. And so these tools of transformation to shift our habitual stimulus response and to move into the realization of our godness, those are available to us. But they only work if we work them. They only work if we put out the effort. Just like an exercise program only transforms our body if we are willing to invest the time and effort into that process. And so, tools of transformation, prayer, meditation, denials, and affirmation, these only work if we work them. The question is, and this is really a question that we all have. It's a question that we have parentally, and it's a question that it won't go away. We need to say what we want to achieve and then choose to achieve it. It's not going to happen on its own. We have to exercise. And so the exercise of practice is about seeing where our habitual responses, stimulus response dynamics need to change, and seeing where our own realization of our interdependencies and interconnectedness. They work if we work them. It's our choice. Now, I'd like to, before we get into our meditation, I'd like to share with you some music. It turns out I shared this music a couple of months ago, but it is relevant, and it is, I think it embeds these ideas pretty effectively. So let me share with you. Christina. Okay. We're all still here. I just got a message that an unknown error occurred with Zoom. So we will attempt to push through. Let me know if you're able to hear this. Are you?
Some days I look in the mirror and I think the meanest things, all the meanest things. Some days I'm holding my self-worth up by a string. But every day that I don't hide myself away, to me is a tiny victory. Some days it feels like a wrecking ball swinging through my rib cage, Some nights I'm just a million broken pieces singing on a stage. I'm a little more broken open, but a little more free. And that's a tiny victory. And if battles I don't hide myself away. To me, it's a tiny victory.
People ask me every day,
we don't need to achieve it all in one leap. It is a process of reconditioning. It is a process of progress. It's not a situation of immediate transformation, but rather it's allowing ourselves to bring to mind that we are on this path. We have an intention to move from here to there. And so we practice. Let's take some time for meditation here. So as we allow ourselves the opportunity to change our goals or to reaffirm our goals of moving back to the heart of God, we allow ourselves to recognize that, yeah, we're not where we want to be yet, but in this moment, right here, right now, I can affirm my oneness with God. I might offer a denial such as my sense of separation from all of those around me and from God is just a figment of my imagination, adapted to make me more powerful in this dualistic realm, but not useful at this stage of my progress. And so we affirm that we are in this state of oneness. We're in this state of interconnectedness. We are interdependent upon every sentient being on this planet, no matter how small the influence. And perhaps we repeat that affirmation many times. The denial once, but the affirmation many times. And in our practice, we can use our meditation to relax into this state of oneness, letting go of our sense of separation, letting go of our egocentric drives and motivations and goals. Move into the realization, move into the state of consciousness that we are part of, an integral part of this web of life. We are intimately connected with all of our relationships, our work relationships, our community relationships, our family, our friends, all of these participants in our lives. We are dependent upon them as they are dependent upon us. We're connected to them through our motivations, our values, our sense of oneness, our sense of wonder. And we also are connected to those that are not intimately part of our lives. People that we don't know. People that we encounter once perhaps on the freeway or encounter once in the grocery store. Yet each of those expressions of God, recognizing, acknowledging each of those expressions of God, moves us into a state of being, into a psychic state of connectedness. We are part of consciousness itself. We are an expression of God itself. Like the waves of the ocean, we are part of the ocean, but individually expressing our traits, our desires, our capabilities, our characteristics. Uniquely offering those around us opportunities to forgive, opportunities to emulate, opportunities to learn from, as we can learn from all of those around us. We are blessed, we are lifted, we are transformed in this realization, in this evolving realization of who we really are. And we give thanks that this is so. We give thanks that we are part of this web of life, that we are connected and dependent upon all aspects. We are a branch of the vine, and the vine feeds us all. And so it is. How are y'all doing?
You're good?
Let me share with you that this ministry is dependent upon your support, and your support is through your contributions of time, your contributions of effort, your contributions of finances. And so as we bring to mind all of those aspects of contribution that we individually want to make to this ministry, we hold those contributions in mind. The love, the effort, the time, the financial contributions, we hold those in mind, and divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. And Doug, if you would, I have my speaker turned up.
Take each moment and live
prayer of protection. Together, please. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Yeah, and so it is. And Kay, if you would.
As we prepare to release our circle and extinguish this flame, we honor the divine light it represents, and we carry that light within us into the world to protect us, to illuminate us, and to guide our actions.
And so it is.